Sab, good morning,
What's up,
Ira.
Jose?
What's going
Welcome
on?
to episode 7.
Yeah. I gotta bring the mic a little bit in.
Oh, my bad. You hear me now?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Is that better?
That's better.
So, how was your Thanksgiving, man?
It was good. How was yours? With all the
You,
pandemic stuff going on.
you know, I kind of stayed consistent with my beliefs. I just kept it simple. I experienced it virtually with my family, and that was about it.
Okay, that's
You
new
know,
and unique. So you did a virtual thing.
yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to know if that's unique because if it wasn't unique, then
Well, I mean unique as far
we're
as
up for something. I hear
as
echo,
far
by the
the
way.
you gotta hit where it says camera mic and where it says audio hit elevation, and that should fix it.
Give me a sec.
China.
Yeah, that's on. Echo cancellation is by default.
Is the echo still there?
No, it's not there now. I think it may have been you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So,
So no, I just kept it simple, man. I stayed home. I went out for a walk, and I definitely got in contact with my family, and we spoke over the phone. Really, that's the extent of it. It
that's
was
good.
it was simple, but I think it was simple, but it was responsible. And I just didn't want. You know what's interesting is that there's a lot. I've been seeing a lot of it, and I don't want to point fingers, but this cognitive dissonance where here you are saying, yeah, we should do this, we ought to do this. The science is clear about that, but then the person in another scenario does exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Jose. What's up, Solution? Anyway, I wanted to talk. I think what's a pressing topic that I want to talk about, in light of everything that's going on, is, and I wrote this recently, is how is it, and why is it that we're so adaptable, right? I think it really is magnificent and beautiful, and it's one of the reasons that I enjoy powerlifting because you know when you think about what that is, and yeah, you could relegate it to simply being a sport. Oh, it's no big deal. You're lifting weight, you're putting it down, big deal. But I think the reason why it resonates so well with me is because you know like other sports, but certainly this one, there's profound changes throughout the human body when you start to engage in something that is difficult, right? Like here you are lifting something that you, people oftentimes are not accustomed to. And you would think, well, if we were a machine, we'd probably just break down. But the human body, it's the ultimate manifestation of resilience because you hear me? What's up, Leon? I'm not sure if you hear me or not.
You got to speak into the mic a little bit.
Oh, my bad. So it's the ultimate manifestation of resiliency because you see how the body adapts. And that is the ethos, if you will. That is what I am trying to convey throughout my office. It's the culture of the office is that your body, the human spirit, the human body could overcome. It has the power of adapting.
You
Um,
know, to jump in on that.
Go
It's
ahead.
funny because I was thinking about the same thing. We're gonna have some guests on. We were thinking of, or we invited some kids on to get their perspective on Thanksgiving, the pandemic, and part of what I was thinking today, as far as our conversation, which is adaptability, is being on the other side of the conflict of the situation. And I said that it was unique. I meant unique in past years but you've adapted. You adapted to the situation. Everybody has. They're all doing it now, virtual like yourself. And it's funny that we're on the same wavelength as far as talking about how we adapt to the change. We're on the other side of the situation, which is what you're talking to with powerlifting. So I just wanted to add that in there. But you were going to say I.
Oh, well, what I was going to say is that, the reason why I love the sport is because it really is the ultimate example. In fact, coming up January 17th, I'm having a powerlifting showcase. Um, so that's Mike. I mean, Leon, I don't know what's going on. Leon is telling me my mic is low.
You got to kind of speak into it when you feel bad. Yeah, there's something up with your
You
microphone
hear
today.
me now? You
Yeah,
hear me now?
you got to come in a little bit more.
You hear me now?
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to speak like that because it's really low.
Oh my God. Oh, I feel like I'm a singer. Anyway, so we have this event January 17th, and I'm excited for it because, it gives people something to look forward to, especially during the times that we're living in now. So people are starting to prepare, people are signing up. I'm definitely excited. I love hosting these things, and I just like just bringing the most out of people, and this is one of the many ways. Look, there are many ways to skin a cat. I'm not saying that sometimes I get so caught up in fucking like this whole strength arena that people think it's the only way. It's not the only way. There are many ways to skin a cat, man. It's just this particular sport resonates with me because it just again, it's the ultimate manifestation that every system in the body, in the human body, actually changes when it endures stress. And you talk about plasticity, you talk about neuroplasticity, you talk about our ability to change. We, for many years, let me just say this point, and then if you want to respond, but
Yeah.
for many years, especially in the medical arena, the modus operandi has always been to analogize the human body with a machine, right? We would analogize the human body with like a car, and when something went wrong with the car, we would uh, undergo some type of diagnostic mechanism to identify what's going on. Then, what happens when you undergo a diagnostic when you have a car? You either repair the part or you fix the part, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you either repair the part or replace the part. Once again, you either repair the part or you replace the part.
Yeah.
And for it's so indoctrinated into our culture in the medical arena that we should treat the human body the same way, where we should treat the human body in a way where when we identify a problem, it's like when in doubt, cut it out. And
Yeah.
it couldn't be any more antithetical to that premise. The human body is like an ecosystem. Have we spoken about this last week, Jose?
We've spoken about it on some shows.
Yeah, but
Maybe not
is
last week.
it is like an ecosystem. So you can't simply think that you're going to solve a problem by reducing it to a singular cause or anatomical structure. And so this is a perfect example. Um, the, the reason why I get excited about you know exercise and just everything, even exercise for the mind and exercise for the spirit, is because it is in fact that we are malleable and we can change. And even with something that is diseased, right? Like when you get an MRI or CAT scan, you see something that is diseased, right? Degenerative or torn or have some type of defect. Research has shown overwhelmingly that even with those defects, you could still get to the other side without fixing it or repairing it. Like a perfect example. What's up, Clara? What's going on? What's up, Leon? What's up, Melissa? So a perfect example is like meniscal tears, like the tears in the knee. We have this thing that all of them have to be fixed. We have this thing in our head, and it is just simply part of the culture in the medical arena. But that's not the case. And research shows that strengthening tissue, improving tolerance can help your knee regardless of what that MRI shows. So I use that as an example to tell people, hey man, we are malleable. We can adapt even with this disease structure or anatomy. You feel me, Jose?
Yeah, no. The reason that um, this topic, is relevant to the whole podcast and everything is the way I see it is, you look at powerlifting, right? And you go in and you have 200 pounds, you got to attack. That's a large, it may seem unsurmountable amount of weight. And you stand there, you look at it, you're like, I'm never going to be able to do that. And that's your brain, right? You think like this is a problem. It's like a regular problem that we may face on a day to day. This is just impossible. But you dig deep, whatever it is you got to do. You do it. You conquer it, and then what? You go to 220 pounds, 230, and keep pushing through it. And it shows that we can overcome these things in life in that one arena in comparison to attacking things that come across our lives. And we're adaptable enough that we can face something bigger. You know, and you've spoken to the the muscle tearing in the tissue, which your body heals itself and builds upon itself. That's how your muscles grow. And powerlifting talks all of those things that we talk about as far as having the courage to continue and push through. I think it's very, very apropos that we touch on that as far as the show. You
You
know?
know, look, we've said this many times, but we each have our objectives with this. And one of my objectives in just having this open dialogue is that we can inspire and motivate people when they hear other people's stories, right? I came across that acronym and I thought it was so touching. Hope, hearing other people's um, experiences.
I thought you made that up. I was giving you credit for
Well,
something.
I did come across it. What's up, Crystal? You're right, Crystal. But you know, I, it does, and hardship is
What
just
what 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 does that mean though exactly? How does this change your mindset? I'm not even powerlifter, but what speak to that.
so you kind of touched upon it. Like a lot of like let's try to use that sport as a figurative piece for life. Let's just think of that as this analogous concept of what life is, right? So let's think of a barbell. It's very difficult. It may seem insurmountable, right? It may
Okay.
seem like you'll never be able to get it. And in life, right? I can't tell you how many times at least I've experienced something where something seems insurmountable. It's like I'll never get over that hill. But the way you approach it in that sport is that you can't look too far ahead. You have to look what's
I
before you
got you.
now.
I got
You
you.
have
So
to make
what's in front of you?
small incremental changes. Small incremental changes. Almost like you're climbing a ladder and yeah, you have a destination, but you have to take it, one step at a time. And and so this is how powerlifting is so analogous to the human life experience is that sometimes we have these things, whether it's a relationship that it may seem insurmountable to overcome. It may be like some type of professional aspiration, like starting a business or climbing up the ladder, figuratively in in a corporate setting. It could be getting closer to your beliefs, whatever those things are. Sometimes it's not uncommon that things may seem insurmountable. The beauty of the human malleability is that we can make small little changes, small incremental changes. And in doing so, we're getting closer and closer to that ultimate goal. And so that thing that once seemed insurmountable is now within your grasp. And this is why powerlifting is truly, you know, a direct reflection of the human experience.
And so you wouldn't you're kind of singling out powerlifting, but we've done triathlons and things like that. It's not one and the same. It's a different
No,
experience
well,
altogether.
Jose, um, there are many ways to skin a cat.
Okay.
There are many ways to skin a cat. One of the things that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago was like the social, the support network. And check this out. It's very interesting. I used to be a New York City road runner, right? A
Yeah.
New York road runner. In fact, you and I used to do a lot of the events
Yeah.
in Central Park.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's interesting with that? And this is why I slowly moved away from it. A lot of the training when you're running and doing triathlons, you're doing it on your own.
Mhm.
That's not the culture in powerlifting. In powerlifting,
Oh,
people
okay.
are with you. So there's a strong culture to support your goals.
I
There's a
got
strong there's a strong culture surrounding that. You're not like doing these goals, and think about it. If this couldn't be any more emblematic of life, come on. Like a lot of times in life, when you're aspiring to do something, you need that support network to get to that
you.
next goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when I was running, when I was doing triathlons, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to push the body, and the body and again, there are many ways to skin a cat, but a lot of that goal accomplishing was happening as an individual.
See, I didn't know powerlifting was a
Oh
team
yeah,
effort. Uh,
it's a culture, man.
but it's a team. It's a
It's a big
team.
family. It's a big
Oh, okay.
family. Well, yeah, you could compete as teams certainly, but what I'm saying is part and parcel of powerlifting is being part of a community, a larger community that's supporting your objectives, supporting your goals. Like I can't like if Crystal's on, I can't tell you that she may be thinking about her goals, but I'm thinking about her goals. And to see her accomplish that not only is going to make her happy, but it's going to make me ecstatic. And I could say that about a lot of other people too. So it's just part of a larger community where, look, if you did a 6 minute mile, yeah, it's great, but the ultimate test wouldn't be seen until you did an event in running or in triathlon. Here in the powerlifting world, even the training, has that support system,
It's got
that
that
true
the
support system.
community. I
Yeah,
got
that
you.
community, exactly. And,
And
and and think about what's going on now, right? We're losing that this sense of community more than ever is something that we need. There's a big void in community, and this is how we started off the show. This cognitive dissonance,
yeah.
because people are still being part of a big community despite what science. I hate to
Well,
even say it's such a trigger word. I feel uncomfortable
yeah.
saying it's such a trigger word, but what science is saying.
Well, I mean, we've had to adapt, and we need to socialize, and that's why all these podcasts are popping up all over the places.
Another
People,
motherfucking
people need people. People need people. That's what it's about. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen once the world opens up. What's going to happen with all these podcasts? Uh, and how everyone's gonna, socialize then. Um, but yeah, we need each other, and that's why these platforms are out there. And so again, when is your event? Uh,
So the event is January 17th.
okay,
January 17th.
and where is it?
It is on at 150 Clearbrook Road in Elmsford, New York.
And where is that a gym?
Yeah, exactly. It's in a big, airy, spacious environment. There's going to be
What's the name of the gym?
the Westchester Gym.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And do they have all those new air circulation things, or they don't?
Yeah, they have the Merv 13, but more importantly than their systems that they have they're gonna have the doors open. So not only are we gonna have good filtration, but we're also gonna have open air ventilation. So and it's gonna be it's so big that with the 20 lifters that we have, it's gonna be spaced out. So I'm confident that I'm gonna be able to adhere as a host to all the guidelines while keeping everyone safe and none of this poking of the nose out the mask. It's going to be, you know, covering your nose and your mouth. And should that happen, they're going to be asked to leave. So
Okay,
I'm pretty strict. I'm going to be pretty strict on that.
all right. I mean, that's the new world, so we got to
But
make sure we take care of ourselves. Good.
let's talk about the younger generation. I
Uh,
you were going to
you
have
know,
questions on
yeah, I was
because
hoping to
it's
have.
really interesting to talk about.
I invited a few of them on. I kind of wanted, my angle and what I wanted to get out of them was their perspective on this pandemic. How do they spend their Thanksgiving? How are they afraid of the disease? So on and so forth. I believe that there's an array of different perspectives among that group, and I kind of wanted them to speak to that themselves. They're probably sleeping in, so they haven't. I sent them the invite; they didn't click on. But that was the idea of the show, is just getting different perspectives
You-
on this pandemic.
I, what I find fascinating, when I speak to Mike um, and Derek and the times that I've been on that show, it's apparent that um, their views are harnessed from philosophical and religious perspectives, and that's cool. And the contrast that I bring is that I try to bring that element of science. And I was listening to their show this morning, and one thing that came to mind when they were talking about the ego and how it's important to use the ego versus when not to use the ego. I couldn't help myself but to think how the brain works, the maturity of the brain, and at it, there's research that has shown that not until about 25 years old is the brain fully matured. So the ability to engage in like higher executive um, thinking is going to be somewhat compromised, and it's one of the reasons why you see like young kids doing stupid shit, right? You see young kids doing stupid shit. I'm not. Listen, I don't want to be an ageist, but you see
That is
I,
100% ageist.
I know. Well, yeah, but I'm just reconciling why.
Well,
No, I'm reconciling why when you look at statistics like accidental deaths or um, you know getting involved in the criminal, the legal arena, that a lot of the young kids predominantly are being involved with that because of poor decision making. And the point is like during this COVID time, there there are kids that are just hanging out as if things aren't happening. And is what do you attribute that to? Is it that they can't register it, they can't intellectualize it, or is it cognitive dissonance? Do they recognize it but don't apply it to themselves in their own context?
I mean, I don't know if it's only. That's kind of why I wanted to get a few of them on. I don't think they're all sharing that same belief. I don't think that it's. I don't think it's an age thing. I know a lot of older people that feel the same way, and I think it cuts across, and that's kind of why I wanted them to speak to their experience because I think you would get that there are different perspectives on COVID. Some of them are afraid of it, some of them are not. But I don't think it correlates to age overall. You turned off your mic. I can't hear you. So yeah, I don't think. I think there's a lot of them that are afraid of it. Nope, your mic is off. There you go. Now you got it.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. There's some adults that are assholes too. Let's not get it twisted. I'm not just saying that poor decisions are made by young adults, but what I'm saying, thanks, Mike. I got you. Um, I think that predominantly a lot of poor decisions, and if you look at data science, if you see the people that are engaging in lifestyle behaviors that are compromising or that are risk taking, a lot of them are younger adults. And I think one of your objectives today was to get your cousins on or nephews and nieces to see how they're navigating through this experience and to get it from their perspective.
Yeah, because I don't believe it's an age thing. I really don't. I think that if like you said, someone's an asshole. It doesn't matter what age you are, you're gonna be an asshole.
Jose,
So,
I've known you all these years. You're still an asshole. It's great.
I've been consistent with that.
You've
No matter what.
consistently been an asshole every decade of life.
And that's my point. So I just wanted to have people show that. I wanted to get assholes at different age groups and have them talk, and then you can see it for yourself. But yeah, I don't think it's stuck with the age. There's people that are very concerned about and very very afraid of COVID, and other people that are adapting to it and doing what they can, and I think that's the way it plays out. You know?
Yeah, I know. I think you can't deny though, Jose, that there's this aura of invincibility that the youth have because they're unable to identify themselves as being a victim. And as a consequence of that type of mindset that's all too common, you have this generation of young people engaging in behaviors that are risk taking. Think about it. Why is it that car insurance is so high when you're under, what is it, 20, somebody help me out, 23, 25 years old? Why is that? And then it starts to drop down as we get older.
I mean, you're connecting 2 points together. I I can see what you're saying. I mean, but again, I think that there are also a lot of responsible young people that are unfairly paying higher premiums, even because of a business or an industry that's exploiting certain research, things. I think that's, I don't think it matters what age you are.
I understand what I'm referring to is data science, Jose. What I'm saying is that oh snap, what's up, Mike?
Yo, what's up, fellas?
Mike, are you still an asshole over all these years, or have
Absolutely. That's why I had to pop in. Yes, because once you started talking about assholes, I said there's no better guy for you to have on the show today than me. So I said, this is, you can't talk about assholes without me. It's impossible. You can't do that. It's impossible.
clean shaven asshole today.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's well, yeah. You know, assholes shave too, bro.
Yeah, I see that.
Nice hat on too.
and
I
and
like
a
that.
hat, and a hat.
So,
Yeah, man.
it's funny. I don't know what the hell we're talking about this morning.
Today,
There's some element of we're talking about young kids and the way they think and their risk taking amid this crisis. And then we were also talking about the malleability of the human mind, body, and spirit. And we were talking about powerlifting. But the intention of this show was to have his nieces and nephews on to get
Uh,
their perspectives on how they're coping.
so what happened?
it's kind of Mike. The show today was, or the conversation was going to be about adaptability. Everybody was afraid of this COVID thing for Thanksgiving. Now we're on the other side of it. How do we adapt to it? And I was going to have some young people on so they could talk about how they spent it and speak to their fears and their concerns, and we could see what their experiences were over the whole Thanksgiving COVID thing. So powerlifting, we discussed that because the elements of it are a lot about adapting the body, adapting to the way you get stronger, you go on to the next thing, and how the mind and the body are very adaptable. So that's the premise of the show today.
Yeah.
Mike, you remember one time we had a conversation about learned helplessness?
Oh
Right?
yeah. Yeah.
We are adaptable, right? Like
Mhm.
just how ironic that what a vaccine is a reflection of our adaptability. Here we are, um, injecting this attenuated, virus into our body with the hope that our immunity adapts to it by, building antibodies. And so, yes, that's that couldn't be any more of a better example amid this crisis of how adaptable we are.
Yeah.
But what happens, right? Amid this COVID fatigue, it's been what 8 months now, 9 months that we've been living this new life.
Mhm.
Yes, we can adapt, but suppose we don't. Suppose there's a maladaptive response because there's no like light at the end of the tunnel. What's going to happen?
That's scary.
And that's when we get into learned helplessness.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. I mean, God, there's so much to talk about there, right? I mean, you got the kids part of it, which they tend to be more fearless. I think that's one of the points you guys were making, and I mean, it makes me think about my progression. From a kid to a 46-year-old man, and I it's unbelievable the stuff I wasn't scared of, and I don't even understand it. Like I think of things I would do without even a thought, without even a reflection of fear, be it death or anything. So I tend to relate a lot to the kids in that sense because I bet you there's some science in there, Ivan,
There is.
right? That you don't develop
The
the
brain doesn't fully mature until 25 years old.
and there it is.
That's why there's a lot of risk taking early on in
Yeah.
life.
So it makes sense. And in a sense it's sort of it doesn't that kind of make sense too that you'd be to establish yourself in society, to be functional, you need to take more risks. So you have more of uh, a bravery, I guess, a sense of courage to take those risks that you need to do to get yourself and build yourself a life within society because you need to take risks to do that at that age, probably to kind of line you up to have a productive life, in a secure life. So I guess it kind of makes sense.
I'm gonna try to tie this in with my recollection of introduction to psychology and kind of what you were talking about today, the id, ego, and super ego.
Hmm.
But from my recollection, your id was your primitive desires, and a lot of times, and then you have this super ego, which has the ability to navigate through those primitive desires and what you kind of want to do. And I think maybe if you put this psychological lens or perspective to understanding the mindset of young people, their super ego, right, is just overpowering their id, or rather the reverse. Their id, their primitive desires are overpowering their ability to executively think and use ration um, to use sound logical thinking. So they want to go out, they want to hang out, they want to whatever drive 100 miles an hour, they want to do all these things, and they know they may be able to intellectualize that those things are risk taking, but they do them anyway. I don't know, and yeah, this is like a lens, a perspective. But what do we do with that information? How do we make it actionable to prevent, bad outcomes?
Man, what do you think, Jose? I don't think you can.
No, I think you gave it a good. You shaped it well. I mean, if you're building a life, you're going through life, and you gotta set it for the rest of your life. You gotta be a little bit of have a little bit of invisibility. What are you gonna do? You're gonna stay home and
Yeah.
not take it on, and some of it is actually very healthy, even when it comes to, when you try to instill in your team, in when they're powerlifting, is to have some of that visibility, and push through. So you need some of it. Going back to your regular statement that you made, the poison, the dose makes the poison.
Yeah.
I guess when it's a little bit too much, that's when it's off balance. But you need some of that.
No, but what I
and it can be healthy to look at them and see how they're adapting through it. If this thing does not go away, we got to start going out someday.
If it doesn't go away, people are going to start living life.
You have to.
It's happening, but I got to tell you, mental health disorders and I hate to say it, but suicide and all this stuff, it's all going up. So, are these reflections of learned helplessness? Like, it doesn't matter what I do, whether I listen to science, do I listen to Fox, do I listen to MSNBC?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. This life is. So we're talking on two different wavelengths. Jose, one thing that I want to say about that is that experience is the best teacher. And sometimes while the youth mindset may kind of lend itself to this idea that they're invincible, it's not until they get burned
that's a good point.
Realize that they're not invincible.
That's a great point, because that's looking back on my youth. There was a moment like that where I completely changed, where I got burned, and I went and I straight and narrow. It was after that point, it was all about music, trying to be successful, focusing. I completely disconnected with a large chunk of friends, and then they would call and they would be upset, and you guys were good guys, so I didn't have to disconnect from you. But there was some other guys, and I had to disassociate those guys. And what you said makes a lot of sense, man, because but without that happening, that moment that's going to make an impact on them, that's going to make them get a little bit of a healthy fear, maybe. They can't help it, probably. I'm not making an excuse for the kids, but I don't think they can help it. There's just, I vividly remember so many things, and it's incredible to me that I never ever pondered the risks involved with so many things. And it's like you said, the brain's not developed. It makes sense. The brain's not developed, and that will certainly do it, and I'm feeling fatigued, man. I don't know how much longer I can be the restrained, responsible person for my family. And I think a lot of people are feeling fatigued. A lot of people are, it's real, it's not irresponsible people. I sense it in my outings and just out there. There's a big fatigue.
If we go through, everybody's talking about the winter, moving into the winter. We go through the winter on a lockdown, and there is no, and this, just forget about COVID. just year to year, once spring hits, you want to go outside. There's something in your body, cabin fever. You talk to the science to that. You want to go out there. You're going nuts. And we are still facing some shutdown after the winter. It's going to be tough to control people's behavior. It's just not. It's going to be very difficult. They're going to have to come up with some new way to convince, because that's instinctual. That's almost like a bear coming out of hibernation.
I think one thing, one lens that we could use as, because this lens could be applied to almost any setting in life, is simply a cost benefit analysis. At what cost are you willing to live the life that you feel you ought to, that you're entitled to, and at what risk? Did I make myself clear?
Yeah.
At what risk are you willing to live the life that you want to? And that it comes down to that. And Mike, you were talking about the ego earlier today and last week, right?
Yeah. We've been last 3 weeks actually.
And you know what's interesting is that, how in our previous conversations I've always spoken about what makes humans different is that we have the ability to engage in higher executive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So that those primitive desires are suppressed, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that, at least in the context of Freud, that's the id. The id is our primitive desires. And then, it's that, and then we have the ego, that mediator, but then it's the super ego that really, or rather it's the ego that is the mediator, but then it's the super ego that is responsible for making decisions on whether or not I'm going to suppress my desires, like my desire to go out, despite the data showing that it could be dangerous if I go out in a big gathering. And if you want to kind of explain it through this psychological lens, could it be that young people don't have a harnessed or a developed super ego? They don't have the ability to suppress those primitive desires to go out, have fun, and so as a result, they engage in risky behavior.
I think that's definitely something to think about as far as the why. Trying to understand why. But I also think a big part of it is as they lack the experience. Because I mean, I love the point you mentioned earlier is that they haven't been burned.
Yeah.
And I think that's aside from, the like physiological development of the mind and that kind of stuff. The fact that they may not have been burned, because I'm sure there's plenty of young people out there scared to death who've been burned in life and have anxiety and maybe don't even want to leave their house too. But we're talking about the young people who are more quote unquote normal. And I think it's the experience, because I think what stops a young person in their tracks is getting burned that first time or that second time, if they're smart enough to kind of deal with it. And I think a lot of it is just emotional. It's the pressure of family, the pressure. Remember, they're dealing with peer pressure more than we are. We're all in a whole nother state in life, but the kids, it's peer pressure. It's oh, you're not gonna come, yo, that girl that likes you is gonna be here and over here. You're not gonna come out, bro. You're a sucker, man. That's a whole element.
Yeah,
that's very, very important to them at that time. There's a girl they really like, let's say, there's a group of kids they always wanted to hang out with that they've been Snapchatting more, and they got friends, and they're like, yo, we're gonna have this get together. There's only 4 of us. We all tested, like this whole thing. And I think at some point, because bro, you said a scary thing, Ivan. Like,
what's up?
We could get the vaccine, and then there could be throwbacks from the side effects, I should say, sort of, and we don't know what that's going to do. And you're kind of making a point of where if we get it, this, those things can happen too, and we're still going to be dealing with something else. And sort of the reason we need to get it is because we won't be able to sort of have the discipline to do this ourselves, without the help of the medicine, let's say. And that's a lot there, because it makes me feel like it's just going to keep the reality, like right now, that's settling in from what you said, is that it's gonna stay.
This is no different than Vegas and placing odds.
Yeah.
Placing bets based on the odds, but we have to choose a lesser of two evils, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think there's a great choice. I don't think there's the best option. I think it's what's the least worst of the options that are available. And when you kind of think about it, do you live life as if there's nothing going on? Do you heed what's going on and hope for herd immunity, perhaps, and be willing to take that risk? Or do you preemptively take a vaccine in anticipation of the transmission growing at the rate that it's been growing? I think that's what it comes down to. Again, it's this cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah.
I think the best way to put it is that we have to choose the least of all evils. There's no great answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. You said it perfectly. Really, that's the best thing we can do is, and another thing I would like to say is, because I'm seeing this within my own close people I'm close to, we do have to really, and you were saying this too when we went on the live the other day, Ivan, we do got to really respect people and what they choose, and we make our decisions, with the knowledge, like if we feel someone isn't doing the right thing, we can decide, we may not want to be in contact with that group because we know that group, whatever. But there does have to be a respect level on all sides.
Mike, if a dude, and this is going to be hard,
Go.
hard and raw.
Oh man,
figuratively and literally.
I'm excited already.
Let's say like a dude is like sleeping around. Right? Let's say a dude is sleeping around. Sleeping with multiple women.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not using protection.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a dad to be.
You know what I'm saying? And in his head, you know what? It is my right not to wear protection.
Yeah.
Yes, it is your right not to wear protection. But those women that you're with, they don't know the risky behavior you're engaging in, right? So it's now not an individual decision.
Yeah.
That you have to account for, but it's a public health decision that you have to account for. So if you are effing all these women, you know what? You may expose them, and they may not have had that information to make a decision for themselves. And what are we talking about when we talk about COVID and decision making? We're talking about public health.
Yeah.
We're really not talking about the individual.
But there's no way around the reality of, I understand you, and I completely agree with you. But there's no way around just humanity. There's no way around the fact that people want to get together. There's no way around the fact that people older and younger are going to ignore some things, are going to put themselves in vulnerable situations. There's no getting around it. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you. I completely agree with you. And even with the point you made, that guy's not being honest, and he should be. Obviously, he can't be, or he wouldn't be able to be with so many women. He'd probably tell them the truth, and they'd say, "Get the hell out of my house." But the point, yeah, well taken. But I'm just saying that I'm sort of progressing a little bit towards being more accepting of the way things are, the way they're going to be, and that they're not going to change, as far as all of a sudden people are going to become more logical and more, we're emotional. We get peer pressured for even as adults to be at a function our significant other wants to go,
Where are you going with this, Mike?
and it's difficult. It happens, and it's just it is what I'm just laying it out. I'm not saying is right.
Oh, listen, you touched on something, Mike, that is funny because we talk about, and you brought it back. I was gonna jump in on it. You talk about your kids or kids being peer pressured because they want to socialize, but we spoke about in the program how we come up with new ways of socializing ourselves. So we understand that there's other methods, and I'm sure they do it probably more than we do. Get on the internet and talk to each
Yeah,
other.
true.
But
They do.
socializing is a component at every age,
Mhm.
but there is that peer pressure that they bend to more. Uh, you know, I don't know if willingly is the word, but they bend towards it more so than us as adults. But it exists at all ages.
I want to try to
Mhm.
connect the dots and synthesize these concepts. I think it's appropriate, just based on what both of you said. So, cognitive dissonance occurs when a person holds contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, and is typically experienced as psychological stress when they participate in an action that goes against one or more of them.
Mm.
So, Mike, there are people. Let's say you. I'm sure you could intellectualize the risk taking involved in getting into gatherings, but you engaged in gatherings. So
Yeah.
was did that so did were you able to reconcile with yourself that it's low risk, and which would have been a reflection of cognitive dissonance, or you simply said, you know what, I'm taking this risk knowing what I know,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to live with those risks. How did you go through this Thanksgiving? What was the mindset?
Well, I didn't do anything at home, but I did do a gathering yesterday. Um, and what I will say is, this is the way I did it. The people that were in charge of the gathering, they were basically in the medical field. One is both of them are basically professionals, and they work with COVID patients, and they did a pretty as much thorough as possible I'm not saying it was complete, of checking for symptoms, people doing
Cognitive
negative tests.
dissonance.
So no, I'm not. You'll see. I mean, where I'm going, and so I felt that they did the best job they could. Did I feel that that is foolproof? Absolutely not. Did I feel that we were safe? Absolutely not. Did it feel a little bit weird to be there? Did I feel pressured by family? Absolutely. Would I, if it was just me single, would I have gone? No. Um, but like I said, the reality is you get these. It's someone I really care about. It was a very two people I absolutely am crazy about. Probably you know the two of my favorite people. Basically, it was an event for them, and that pressured me and made me want to be there for them. And I did take the risk, and I even put my family at risk. That's the truth, and I knew I was, but there's this kind of friction between uh having the courage to continue and live life
There you go.
and take these it wasn't risk free. I know it wasn't.
Do you think that that's interesting to hear? Do you think that people are operating in a fatalistic way where their days are numbered and they are going to um, start having these experiences, um, like social gatherings, because they simply don't know? And so there's this um, almost intentional recklessness that people are engaging in because of this fatalistic perspective that we don't know if I'm going to live another year or 2 years. So, F it. I might as well do this and do that. Do you think
Yeah.
that may be the basis of how some people are thinking? And the second thing I want to say is I don't think on your end that was cognitive dissonance, because I think you expressly said that you expressly said that you understood the level of risk that you took in going to that gathering. But do you think that people are just have this fatalistic perspective, and so they're doing it regardless?
I don't think people if it is a fatalistic perspective, I don't think they're conscious of it. It would not be something that they worded to themselves like in the same way you worded. There may be there may be that sort of in the background of, well, are we just going to stop living, kind of in the background. But I am gonna listen. I'm pretty fond of cognitive dissonance, I'm very I think about it a lot, and I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance. In my case, it may be, because if it really is, I wouldn't know, because that's true cognitive dissonance. You can't know that you have it, but I am completely aware of the situation, and I did it for other people. I didn't do it for myself. So I did make a sacrifice knowingly. So I don't know if that's cognitive dissonance.
That's your super. If you want to put that sight lens on, that's the super ego. That was you're making decisions that exceed the laws or the governance of the land, right? We're
Yeah,
being told to
but if you
avoid
want to get
gambling.
that technical,
Yeah,
and
well,
this,
I'm just tying it
then
in.
I make that decision when I do a lot of stuff.
And I
If
think
you want to be
that's what
technical, I
makes
wasn't trying to be that technical.
no, but I think that's what makes humans so unique is that, you know, right? Like you have to look at context, and I think that there was a bigger context outside of you that led to that decision. Um, Stealing bread from a store, if you were to look at that in isolation, you would say, well, that's a bad thing to do. But when you add context to that, where that man uh, has a starving family who hasn't eaten for 10 days,
Yeah.
and is at the brink of death, you could start understanding. So, and reconciling that behavior.
Hmm.
And that's the super ego. Again, I'm just throwing
I
it.
just don't know if it's cognitive dissonance. I think I'm not going to say, like I said, I wouldn't be able to diagnose myself with that. So I can't, but it just doesn't, if you're fully aware of something, because dissonance, is
No, no, no.
resonance, is
I don't think
echo,
you had
is
it though.
confusion.
I don't think you had it though, because you were fully aware. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying
But was it right or wrong? I'm not, I'm not.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
But is it right or wrong for the man to steal the bread
Yeah.
from the store?
Yeah.
So
That's,
this is the super ego, kind of reconciling a situation that goes against the governance of a particular land of the
yeah.
land.
Yeah.
And so that was
It's complicated.
It's very complicated.
It's really complicated.
Very complicated.
It's very complicated because, I have to sleep in the same bed every night with the person who wanted me to go. So it's pretty complicated.
There's a whole world, there's a whole world going on, and I think that to tie it kind of all in together, you gotta. The bottom line is we gotta respect each other and what each feels about the disease and how we go about protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the only way we're going to be able to coexist, especially, what we covered, that we're social beings and we're interconnected. You're part of a family group, which is a social group. There's rules that come with that, and it may be going to an event, if you want to continue to have those relationships, and we got to navigate through these things. But being respectful, I think, is the key, because I think we'll be short-sighted. This is not being fatalistic or fear-mongering, but this is a completely, we're in a situation that it's unknown. We don't know. It's all brand new.
And I'm not recommending people do what I did.
Absolutely.
That's what I did.
Yeah. And, but, in going back to the powerlifting and adapting and tying it in with the young with the young people, which someone made a comment that they're more adaptable, actually,
I
than
would say
than
so.
older
They are.
people. And
That makes sense.
and I'm not going to say that we got to take cues from them being reckless, but at some point, we're kind of in a suspended space because we're expecting a vaccine. We're thinking we're going to go back to normal, back to the way things were. We're expecting that. We still have that mindset. This may be it, and I'm not saying you
What
got
do
to
you
be
mean this
reckless.
may be it?
This is it. There may be a COVID-20 in 6 months, then COVID-21.
Damn, that's fatalistic.
That's not fatalistic. That's new reality. That's why I said it's
No,
not.
but it could be like,
No, I know, and that's what learned hopelessness
We
is.
don't.
Where
That's
you
not
say
learned
there might be.
hopelessness. That's adaptability. Because I'm
No,
not
no, no.
saying
What I'm
people
what
are
I'm
home.
what
I'm
I'm
saying
saying.
that we have to adapt and learn how to live life in a productive function. You said it yourself. People are killing themselves. That's
but
crazy.
but
That's,
yo, hold on a
you know,
second. I just want to shout out somebody. January 17th having a big contest.
Yeah, let's talk about
Uh,
that.
Let's talk about that. Let's keep it real in here.
No, I'm ready. I know what you're gonna say.
No, I'm not saying nothing. I'm just promoting it for you.
No,
January 17th.
let's talk about that.
That's all. It's just promotion. Just look. I'm just looking out. I don't want nobody to forget January 17th.
In fact, look,
Jake.
if you want to sign up,
Because
we go with free.
because I want to just throw something out there. This is random. And this is something I've been noticing. Like my older brother. Well, I don't want to shout too many people out, but some people, and let's just do it general. Some people don't like to meet with family anyway.
Yeah.
So this is fine. It's like, all right, my man, I'm staying home. Some people like to meet with family. Some people like to do certain things, and I'm noticing everybody's making exception for the stuff they really like.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I think you said it. Cognitive dissonance occurs in a way that you're not aware of it, and I think that's an example of it. They have certain feelings and ideas and beliefs about something, but then don't apply it in other contexts when it has to do with themselves. That's the
It is. It is. In a
my
way, it is
estimation, that's
cognitive.
the
Yeah,
ultimate
it is cognitive
manifestation of
dissonance.
cognitive dissonance.
It is. I don't want to admit it, but I think it is.
But
I gotta own it.
yeah, I'm speaking from an educator point, watching and seeing younger students don't understand social distance, but how now learning virtual.
Mm.
Lisa, yeah, it's what I was. Why is it that young kids have high car insurance? I think it's it goes back to undeveloped, and I mean it in a physiological biological way. They have under not fully developed brains, and so their behaviors are more not as risk averse as older adults who have mature brains and could kind of forecast what may happen or be able to forecast consequences based on certain behaviors. Think about it. Like, it's not, how often do you see, you know, older people riding a motorcycle 100 miles an hour versus the young kids? And this is anecdotally speaking, but every year I get at least one motorcycle accident, and invariably those people are under 25 years old. So every year in my practice for the past 16 years, I've had a kid, right, 25 years or under, come into my practice because of a really bad fall from a motorcycle. Why is that? Because
Yeah.
they're not as risk averse as older adults. And what do you attribute that to? Certainly, younger people are different. They're not just little. They're not little adults. I think from a conceptual standpoint, we have to recognize that even their biological clocks are different. It's one of the reasons, one of the arguments that school ought to start later because their circadian rhythms are slightly um, uh, altered, not altered, but extended a few hours more than adults. You know, they tend to want to stay up later and sleep later. And so, should we, as part of the academic institution and governance, adjust to the biology of younger adults? And I think that's been an argument in academia for many years. Should we make school starting times a little later? And if we could kind of get to the point where we say, you know what, we should adjust for optimizing the educational experience, then perhaps we should make other adjustments to adapt to um, the lack of maturity and the lack of full development that the young brain has. And I think we have. That's why I keep on going back to that example of motor automobile insurance being so high for young adults, because we know based on data that they make risky behaviors. They engage in risky behaviors.
Well, man, I was listening to you, but at the same time, I just have to 100%. Now that I thought about it more, it's absolute cognitive dissonance, because I can give you the process of when we went to the event, we sat down, people had masks on, then over time, because that means everybody knew. Over time, then people took off their masks. It is cognitive dissonance, and we're getting crushed by it. That's the facts. I just wanted to say that.
Um, you know, Mike and Jose, it kills me. Like, there's a part of me inside that laughs. Like, you were kind of, you said that you had this gathering and people that are very close to you, but you were somehow, there was an inner part of you that justified it by mentioning that they were medical professionals, as if being a medical professional takes away from the science of how this disease is transmitted. I don't care if you're
Yeah,
working, it doesn't matter if you work with COVID patients. It doesn't matter if your behaviors are antithetical to what you're preaching, then that is cognitive dissonance. Unless quarantine for 14 days and then took a test to show that you were negative, and, you know, in those 14 days, that there was no exposure, then you could potentially have that. But to say that you work with COVID patients, the science of this, but still engage in that behavior, those are completely antithetical mindsets.
yeah,
Completely
they are. But
antithetical.
that's why it's cognitive dissonance. And
Yeah.
the thing is to just, I like to be honest, and so yeah, you're right. But I do in the quest of honesty here, which is I think the most important thing in revelation through conversation, which is what we're hoping to do here. Um, it's it is we are social animals. There are pressures socially. There are relationships. There are things that will make us do something despite science, despite knowing better. And yeah, but that's what it is. That's what cognitive dissonance
You're
is, you know.
you're becoming anti-science, Mike. I see the slow development.
Yeah, no, it's not. It isn't. It is and it isn't, right? Because the behavior is possibly anti, but the belief isn't. So
You know,
it's just like putting myself in a situation, but it doesn't deny the cognitive dissonance. That's all I'm saying. I know better, and I still did it.
I want to make this last point, and then I'm gonna provide the audience some information about January 17th. But you mentioned something earlier in your show I was watching. It's become part of my Sunday ritual, Mike, watching you and Derek.
Thank you, man.
Um, but you were talking about, we have to be careful of not like chastising other groups for engaging in the behaviors that in our estimations are risk taking. You got to let people be people. We can't be judgmental. And you know, one of the things, and tying this back to human adaptability, Jose, you know, one of the things that we're, you know, the evidence is mounting is that we are highly unique individuals. We're highly unique, and in saying that, we can't, we have to be cautious when we identify something as diseased or aberrant, because that may be simply anatomical or physiological variation. That may be a physical. So here we are pathologizing something, but it's not a disease. It's just normal variation. So if we kind of take that same concept and apply it to what's going on today, you know, are these behaviors aberrant, or are they simply part of is kind of a normal variation of behavior? And if you kind of start to reconcile things in that way, we could say, you know what, let me take off this judgmental hat. You know, it is their normal. It is a variation of normal, because you can't deny that we are social beings and people want to be in social outings. So we have to say that.
I have support. Thank you, Lisa. I feel a little bit better now. Thank you.
Jose has support too. Jose, could I hear from you?
What do you? I lost that point. I lost that point.
Jose, can I hear from you?
What do you mean? I lost the point.
Jose, where are you? You're gone. You're in La La Land. Come on, man.
What are you talking about? You guys are speaking. I don't interrupt.
We're talking about cognitive dissonance and the support system and identifying what's abnormal versus normal.
I don't want to be rude, because quite frankly,
this is all rude. Everybody's rude.
Yeah. Nah, I choose not to be. Let's leave it at that. But
fun.
So no. But you were gonna wrap up the show with the information.
Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna announce a public gathering.
Which is not cognitive dissonance in any which way, or it may be.
That's a good example.
Or it may be. So it's okay. So it's okay.
I actually
he
like
recognizes the ego and the cognitive.
No, but this is the thing, though. This is how I've been able to reconcile it. No, that's a good point.
Wait, aren't you a scientific
a science leading?
Okay, so let's talk about that. This is gonna be. That's a cute.
We're over an hour. You guys see?
No. I can't. He hit a nerve.
I poked the bear.
He poked the bear.
I don't poke bears anymore.
Unlike gatherings where there's drinking and eating.
Oh, that's the difference.
And unless you're eating and drinking and socializing while keeping a mask, I think it's safe to assume, right, that most people are wearing masks when they're going to gatherings. Is that safe to assume? I mean, that they're not wearing a mask when they're eating and drinking. Is that a safe assumption?
You're setting me up.
Yeah, that's a setup. When you give us
I'll say yes. It's okay. Yes. No.
Not mad. Don't call it out.
No, it's okay.
When I engage in deductive reasoning, it's a trigger for Jose. This is why we got into that big argument 3 weeks ago. And I see Mike getting a little.
I'm not.
Levels are up right now because I'm engaging in deductive reasoning.
No.
It's got nothing to do with me.
You know what it is?
It's deductive reasoning. No, look. Let's engage in deductive reasoning. We're all smart. Let's put on our adult hats on, our fully matured brains on. When we go to gatherings that involve eating and drinking, is it safe to assume that people are removing their mask to eat and drink? Or are they somehow imbibing and consuming while having a mask on?
Yes, but I have to add because to avoid the trap. No, I have to. And it's short. It's not a long ad. You
yes or no?
That's the only way to trap me.
This is the court of Ivan. It's a
No,
yes
no.
or no.
It's yes, but I'd just like to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
I'm not even going to add anything. Do you think that in a gathering which is not for drinking and eating, that everyone is going to be completely responsible, not have their nose out, not take it off? Do you believe that?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
That's how yes or no. That's how yes or no.
That's a yes or no, Pa.
He did it to you.
You can ask me a question back, but you got a yes or no.
Is it possible? Absolutely, yes. Okay. Unequivocally, 100% positively, yes. You know why? Because it is the host.
He's adding more.
It is the host.
He can't keep it at
that lays down the law.
He won't give up.
No, can I say something? I want to say this.
Explain. Go ahead,
explain. I want to. No, because this is all about.
In the court of Jose, you can explain. Go ahead.
This is all about law and enforcement, right? Like policy regulation.
Oh, now it's about that. It's about
okay. Oh, here we go again. Anti-deductive reasoning. But look, in my office in Elmsford, I'm right next door to a court, right? I'm right next door to a court, basketball court. And the rule is that you have to wear your mask. You have to wear your mask, right? Throughout the course of the day, someone in the gym has to go in and say, guys, put on your mask. They have to continue to remind them, put on your mask. And this is just like governance of people. How do you govern people if you have policies and procedures? Well, there has to be a consequence. And one of the things that I've seen is that there's just little to no consequence in those settings. This event that I'm having, well, no, I'm telling you, I am going to be a strict enforcer of the policy. And should someone not adhere, then the consequences going to be they're going to be asked to leave. It is that simple. There is no and, ifs, or buts. You know, if it's a whatever, a medical reason, a religious reason, I respect that. But in this setting, you can't be here. It is that simple. And so I'm laying down the law that particular day. And there's not going to be any eating or drinking. So quite frankly, there's no reason whatsoever to take off the mask. And it seems so trivial. Oh, he's not taking off a mask. But here we are. I got to go back to science. It is this very simple piece of cloth that is a strong determinant as to whether or not this thing is going to be transmitted or not in groups. And so by strictly enforcing the mask and by not having any food or drink, and should you want to eat or drink, they're going to be asked to step outside. I think that is going to safeguard everyone, and it's going to ensure that this is going to be conducted in the safest way possible, which is not conflictual or representative of cognitive dissonance. At least I don't think so, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Okay.
I accept it.
I know where you were going with it when you said January 17th.
So announce it, because I got it.
Yeah,
I think you're way over.
Yeah, hold it. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Anyway, so yes, January 17th is the ultimate showcase for those that have been clanging and banging all year long and they want to showcase their strength. It's going to be a fun, friendly, and safe environment adherent to all the COVID policies and procedures in mitigating the transmission of the disease. January 17th, if you want to sign up, it's very simple. You just go on my Instagram, Dr. Ivan PT. On my profile, I have the link. You click the link, and then we're ready to rock and roll. I think we're about 6+ weeks away So if you want to show some nice numbers, make sure you start working out right away. That's it. And oh, one last thing. We're using the McCullough formula, and that might sound unfamiliar to a lot of people, but what it does is it levels out the playing field. So the McCullough formula takes into account age, gender, and weight. So a 250-pound man who's 24 years old is not going to have an advantage over a 48-year-old woman who weighs 110. With this McCullough formula, all of those coefficients are going to be accounted for. So everyone who's participating is going to be on the same playing field.
Sounds good.
That's it, man. Well, it was real, Mike and Jose.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for coming on last minute like that.
Anytime, man.
So, all right, guys, have a good weekend.
Yeah.
You-